Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into the true cost of building by breaking down an architect's guide to cost management. We're going to tackle the one question that can make or break any project. So let's just get right into it. A client asks their architect that one seemingly simple question. But for the architect, this single question kicks off one of the most complex, high-stakes processes in bringing a building to life. Answering it right is both an art and a science. To even begin to answer that, an architect has to navigate this absolute maze of variables that can totally change the price. You can think of them as the hidden price tags of construction that exist before a single drawing is even made. First up, you've got these huge, big picture forces that are completely out of your control. We're talking about inflation driving up material costs, a local construction boom creating labor shortages. Heck, even the political climate can shift regulations and add costs you never saw coming. And then the land itself has a major say. I mean, it's never just a blank slate, right? Is the ground all rocky and sloped? Well, that means a ton of extra excavation. Is it in a crowded city? Just getting materials delivered turns into a logistical nightmare. And trying to build in the dead of winter? You might be paying for expensive temporary heating just to keep things going. And of course, the design choices you make, they have a massive, massive impact. A tall steel frame skyscraper has a totally different cost structure than, say, a low-rise building made of wood. Every single choice, from the fancy finishes to hitting ambitious green building targets, just adds another layer to that budget. Okay, so with all this complexity, all these moving parts, how on earth do you go from what feels like a wild guess to a number that someone can actually take to the bank? Well, it's a carefully managed journey, a journey from uncertainty to certainty. The process is all about stages of increasing detail. Super early on, when you just have a basic idea of what the building will be used for, you get what's called a Class D estimate. It's a huge ballpark. We're talking a plus or minus of 20, maybe even 30%. But as the design gets more and more real, the estimate sharpens, all the way to a Class A estimate, which is based on the final drawings and is way more precise, like within 5 to 10%. And the logic here is actually pretty simple. The more you know, the less you have to guess. As that project evolves from a fuzzy idea into a super detailed plan, that financial safety net for unknowns, the contingency fund, it gets to shrink. You're just systematically replacing assumptions with cold, hard facts. All right, so what are the actual tools that architects and cost consultants use to come up with these numbers? Because it's definitely not about pulling figures out of thin air. It's a systematic process that relies on a pretty specific toolkit. It all really starts with two basic ways of thinking about it. First, you have the top-down method. This is your quick and dirty estimate. You basically look at a similar project that was built before and say, okay, ours should cost about the same. But then you have the complete opposite, the bottom-up method. This is slow, it's meticulous, and it involves adding up the cost of every single nut, bolt, and hour of labor. Now, in practice, the most common method is a really smart middle ground called parametric estimating. It might sound fancy, but the idea is dead simple. You take a cost you already know, like the price per square meter for a certain type of flooring, and you just multiply it by the total area you need. You do that for all the major parts of the building. And this right here is exactly why estimates get so much better over time. See, early in the design phase, maybe the only thing you can measure is the building's total square footage. But later on, you can measure the exact length of the steel beams, count every single window, and even price out specific light fixtures. You just have more stuff to measure and price accurately. But hang on, because this is where the conversation gets really interesting. The price tag to actually construct the building, well, that's not its true cost, not by a long shot. To really understand the value, we have to look at the entire life of the building. You can think of it in 3 layers. So first, there's the construction cost. That's the bricks, the steel, the labor. Then you add in the land, all the professional fees, insurance, and that gets you to the total project cost. But the real game changer, the one people forget, is the life cycle cost. This includes every single dollar you're going to spend on energy, cleaning, and repairs for the entire 50 or 60-year life of the building. And when you actually look at it like this, it's kind of shocking. That initial chunk of cash to build the thing, over the full life of the building, it's often dwarfed by the long-term costs of just operating it and maintaining it. We're talking energy bills, a new roof every 20 years, system upgrades. That's where the real money is spent. And this brings us to the most critical takeaway. Chasing the absolute lowest initial price can be a total trap. That cheaper window or roofing material you choose today could mean you're stuck with decades of higher energy bills and expensive repairs down the line. It's a classic case of short-term gain for long-term pain. So what does this all mean? It means we need to completely redefine how we even think about the word cost when it comes to a building. And that leaves us with one final provocative question to think about. What's truly cheaper? The building that costs less to build today, or the one that costs less to own over its entire lifetime? And understanding that distinction, well, that changes everything.